I can save him. Maya's voice was calm, but firm, as she stood at the front desk of Memorial Hospital, gripping her worn-out guitar case with fingers trembling from both the cold and fear. The nurse looked at her with disbelief, then mild pity. She had seen too many desperate souls come through these halls. But this girl, there was something different about her, something in her eyes. Determination, maybe, or love. Maya was only 11, but she carried the soul of someone far older. Her hair was pulled back into 2 tight braids, her coat 2 sizes too big, and her shoes made more of duct tape than leather. Yet she stood like a soldier refusing to retreat. Walter Grantham was not a stranger to her. He was her best friend, her only friend. Every Sunday afternoon for the past year, the two had sat beneath the same oak tree at Madison Park, him with a small travel guitar, her with the battered old one he had once repaired for her. They played, they laughed, and sometimes when the world was too heavy, they sat in silence. He told her stories of when he was young, before money made people treat him like an empire. She told him about the bridge she lived under, the dreams she had at night, and the songs that came to her in sleep. They were 2 broken pieces that somehow made a whole when together. But last Sunday, he didn't come. Maya waited until the shadows grew long and the wind too cold to bear. She thought maybe he forgot, or maybe business kept him, but something in her chest whispered otherwise. So the next morning, she walked 12 blocks to the tall glass building he called home. There she heard the words that cracked her open inside. He was taken to Memorial, collapsed in the lobby. She didn't hesitate. She ran. Now standing in the hospital lobby, she had been told no 5 different times. Family only. He's unconscious. There's nothing more anyone can do. But none of those answers satisfied her because deep down she knew she was his family. Not by blood, but by something deeper. And finally, she saw him. Michael, Walter's assistant, the man who had once bought her hot cocoa and a scarf on a freezing December afternoon. "Mr. Michael," she called, running to him. He turned, startled, then surprised. "Maya." His face softened. "You shouldn't be here, kid. It's not good. Please," she begged, grabbing his sleeve. "Let me see him. Just 1 minute. I can help. I know I can." Michael hesitated. There was protocol, of course. But there was also that look, that same fire Walter used to smile about when Maya talked about music. The look of someone who believes. He nodded, slow and reluctant. 1 minute. If anyone asks, you're his granddaughter. Understood? Maya nodded furiously, eyes already stinging. She followed Michael through the polished corridors, past the nurses, who gave puzzled stares, into a quiet room filled with machines and the soft beep of a heart still fighting. There he was, Walter Grantham, paler than she had ever seen. Tubes ran across his chest like vines, and the light in the room seemed to dim around him. She sat beside him slowly, afraid that even her breath would disturb the silence. "Hi, Mr. G," she whispered. "I waited at the park. You didn't come." Her voice cracked. "Well, I brought the park to you." With trembling hands, she opened her guitar case, pulled out the old 6-string, and cradled it like a lifeline. Her fingers took their place, almost by memory. The chords felt stiff at first, the cold, the nerves, the fear. But soon the melody took over. The same song they always played together every Sunday. The one they never finished but always laughed through. Her tears fell freely now, landing on the wood of the guitar. Soft little drums on the silence. "You remember this?" she whispered. "You said it was the song that had no end. Maybe that's why you liked it." She sang softly, just under her breath, as though afraid of waking the wrong spirits. But her voice, though fragile, carried the warmth of countless Sundays. And then something happened. A single tear traced down Walter's cheek. Maya gasped. She looked up, his hand, once still as stone, twitched. Just a flicker, but enough. "Mr. G," she breathed, voice shaky. "Can you hear me? If that moment touched your heart even half as much as it touched ours, don't let it end here. Hit the like button to let us know this story mattered to you, and drop a comment.
Tell us where you're watching from and who you're watching with. We'd love to hear your thoughts and share this journey with you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the BUP Stories channel so you never miss a moment that could move you just like this one. The machines did not change. The beeping continued in its same rhythm, but Maya saw it. The hand moved again. The tear was not imagined. She played again, harder this time, not louder, but more alive. She put every ounce of their friendship, every Sunday, every smile into the strings. Outside, Michael was frozen in place, staring through the glass window. He turned to Julia Hayes, the attending doctor, and whispered, "She's doing something none of us could." Back inside, Maya finished the final chord and leaned close. "Don't go yet, Mr. G," she whispered into the still air. "We haven't finished the song." It was only a flicker, a tremble in the fingers, and a single tear. But in the world of machines and silence, that moment was an earthquake. Maya sat frozen for what felt like hours. Her small hand still clutching the neck of her guitar, her heart thundered in her chest louder than her music ever could. Walter Grantham, the man who had once called her, "the only honest person I know," was not gone. Not yet. Behind the glass, Dr. Julia Hayes stared with parted lips. "That's not possible," she murmured to herself. Michael, still standing beside her, shook his head. "You saw it, too, right?" He moved. "Yes," Julia said quietly, snapping back to protocol. "We need to run a neurological check immediately. His baseline hasn't changed in months." And now, inside the room, Maya slowly placed her guitar back in its case. She reached for Walter's hand, careful not to disturb the 4 lines. His fingers were warm, not the cold of someone fading, but the warmth of someone listening deep inside the silence. "Mr. G," she whispered, her voice soft and shaky. "If you can hear me, I'm going to come back tomorrow." "Okay, I'll bring that peanut butter sandwich you always made for me on Sundays, and I'll play you a new song. Just stay." The door opened behind her with a gentle creak. Julia walked in with practiced calm, her eyes scanning the monitors. "Then Maya," she said, kneeling to Mia's level. "You need to go now, sweetie." "But thank you for what?" Mia asked. "For reminding us that hope doesn't always wear a white coat." Mia nodded, slung the guitar over her shoulder, and stepped into the hallway. The moment she left, a team of nurses and a technician rushed in. The sudden bustle in Walter's room made her heart twist. Outside, the sun had started to dip behind the frozen skyline of Chicago. The snow sparkled on the sidewalks like tiny diamonds. Maya tugged her scarf tighter around her neck and began the long walk back toward the bridge she called home. That night, she couldn't sleep. She curled up under the thin blanket, listening to the wind whistle through the gaps in the concrete. Every sound reminded her of him, Walter's laugh, the low hum he made when he was concentrating, the way his fingers tapped the body of his guitar when waiting for her to catch up in a song. What if that tear had been the last? What if she was too late? The next morning, she arrived at the hospital before sunrise. A nurse recognized her but didn't stop her this time. Michael met her in the lobby, this time with 2 cups of hot cocoa. "He's stable," he said, handing her the cup. "They're calling it neurological stimulation from an external familiar source, but you and I know what it was." Maya smiled. "Music." He nodded. "They've allowed a 20-minute visit. No guitar today, but you can talk to him. The doc thinks your voice might help." Inside the room, Walter looked unchanged. Still pale, still surrounded by machines. But Maya saw something. No, his fingers weren't curled as tightly. His brow more relaxed. He looked less like a statue and more like a man waiting. She pulled the chair closer and began to speak. "You always said music was memory with rhythm. So I brought you some memories," and she talked. She told him about the first time she ever touched a guitar found in a dumpster behind a church. She told him about the old man who taught her chords with twine and a bottle cap as a pick. She reminded him of the park bench, of the squirrels who stole their crackers, of the time he slipped on ice and pretended it was just a new dance move. She told him about the bridge, how it smelled like oil and dust, how it was the only place that felt like home until she met him.
And as she spoke, she reached for his hand. She paused, smiling toward Isaiah.
Opened for a city concert last weekend.
The board applauded, but Maya raised a hand.
There's something else, she said. A decision. She took a deep breath. I've been asked to join the National Council for Arts Education.
They want me to advocate for music access in underserved schools across the country.
Cheers erupted. Julia beamed.
But, Maya added, it would mean stepping away temporarily from day-to-day leadership here.
I'll still be involved, still present, but someone else will manage the programs. Silence followed, not disappointment, respect. And then Michael, still faithfully managing operations, spoke first.
Walter would be proud.
That night, Maya walked the halls of the center alone.
She ran her fingers along the listening wall, pausing at a tiny piece of guitar neck, splintered, worn. Heard you loud and clear, she whispered.
She turned the final corner to the music room. Empty, dim light.
She stepped in and sat at the front, guitar in her lap.
And slowly, deliberately, she began to play.
The notes were simple, old, familiar, the first melody, but this time she added something new. A bridge, notes that rose, paused, and carried into something wider, bolder, like a sunrise stretching past the skyline.
She finished and looked out at the empty chairs.
Still with me? She asked. There was no answer, but she smiled anyway.
2 months later, Maya took the stage at a national education conference in D.C. Her speech was brief.
She wore no makeup, no entourage, just a guitar across her back.
I don't have a degree, she began.
I didn't grow up in schools that had music classes. I didn't even have a bed for a while, but I had a friend who saw music in me before I ever saw it in myself. She looked out at the sea of faces, some skeptical, some inspired.
And because he listened, I found a way to listen to others. That's what art does. That's what it should do.
When she finished, she received a standing ovation, but Maya didn't stay for the reception.
She flew back to Chicago that night. She arrived at the center just before dawn. Isaiah was waiting on the steps with 2 coffees.
You're back, he said. I never left, she replied, taking the cup.
Inside, the kids would arrive soon. Lessons would begin.
The strings would hum and Maya would do what she always did, listen first, then teach. Because that's how bridges are built, one note at a time, one heart at a time. And long after the final chord fades, the song stays. The story of Maya and the Second Verse Initiative teaches us that true transformation begins with being heard. It reminds us that even the most unlikely voices, those from the margins, from forgotten corners, can carry the power to heal, lead, and inspire.
Through resilience, quiet courage, and unwavering faith in the goodness of others, Maya showed that music is more than art. It's connection, legacy, and justice.
Above all, the story reveals that when we choose to listen deeply and act with compassion, we become instruments of change in a world that so desperately needs harmony. Subscribe to BUP Stories for more inspiring tales like this.